welcome to the Kelly Roach Show, a place for no fluff, easy to implement, 20-minute or less business and leadership lessons to help you build a sustainable business that scales. Let's get started. Welcome back. This is the Kelly Roach Show, and I'm so pumped to have Krystel Borg back here with me today. If you don't know Krystel, she is the president of the Business Advisory, where we help people to build sellable, scalable, self-led companies and teams. And what we love to do here at the Business Advisory is help people build businesses that allow them to achieve their income goals without compromising their quality of life. And Krystel has been working really closely with a lot of our clients that are a bit more sophisticated, to have a little bit of a higher level skill set. And one of the things that Krystel was sharing with me was that it seems to always be this 2-millimeter shift. Right. And Krystel's been doing a lot of VIP days with our customers. Obviously, she does high level coaching and consulting with our higher tier customers. So Krystel, let's unpack a little bit. Like, talk to me about what you're seeing when you say that you keep seeing it's a 2-millimeter shift for people to get that big unlock. What are the patterns that you're seeing being repeated there?
Well, I think that people tend to do always the things that they know. And so sometimes having, like, when we talk about the 2 millimeters, is like, what else could you do to make a result different, right? Because if you do the same thing over and over again, you're getting the same results. So what else could you do? And a lot of people are kind of like stuck in that pattern because it's very hard to really observe your own self and your own behaviors and patterns. And so you get stuck, and then you get overwhelmed in the noise because, of course, like, so many specialists out there, so many different strategies, so many things that you just get lost and you get stuck. And then you get frustrated, and it's that loop. So your mindset is not great. You're not going into a launch with a really high level energy and hope just because you're feeling stuck. So when we talk about the 2 millimeters, is sometimes it's that one thing that you do differently that can unlock everything. And the minute that you start feeling that hope and you start believing, your own brain, like your whole functioning, like the way you operate, changes. And so that's why we're also in the business of helping people. That's because we know that you need a coach or you need somebody to help you identify what those 2 millimeters are so you can get unlocked. But the pattern is that people get really stuck and get into that out of spiral, I guess is the expression, where they don't know what to do next, and that desperation is felt, and then the energy is not right going into a launch.
For sure. And the energetics of launch is absolutely everything. And what I want to go back to with what you were just sharing there, Krystel, I think there's a really important point, which is that I think people tend to swing the pendulum one way or the other, right? So instead of saying, let me find those little nuances of how I can find the unlock that is, I call it like the gold that is already in what you're doing. Most of the time people are like, this strategy doesn't work. I'm going to scrap this and I'm going to go start this other thing instead. I'm going to go try this other strategy instead. And then what happens is you're constantly starting over. You're constantly starting from zero. You're constantly at the beginning of a strategy, so you can never perfect it and you can never get to the point where you have mastery. And what you're talking about, Krystel, is just kind of having someone outside of yourself help you to identify where you have the opportunity to make these tiny refinements, these small little shifts that can take all the work that you're already doing and just kind of like crystallize it. And like, I imagine like a jacket zipping up. It's like zipping up the jacket. Like all the work was already there. It just wasn't fully coming together yet.
Yes, I have so many examples of that, Kelly, and I can just give a couple, right?
I would love that because I think, that's amazing, Krystel, because I think everybody that's sitting here listening is like, it's so hard to see from inside the bottle, right? It's so hard to see where you're not capitalizing on those shifts because you're not able to observe yourself. So let's talk about some of those examples of what you're seeing, Krystel.
Yeah, let me give you 2 or 3 examples. So we worked on a VIP with a client that most of her leads are on LinkedIn, for example. And so for her, when she was using Facebook paid ads, and when she was using an opt-in for people to sign up to her launch, she was asking for the basic, which is name and email. But her game for her in particular, finding that person on LinkedIn and having DMs and having that connection is really important. And sometimes she had a hard time finding those people on LinkedIn because the name or email doesn't always cut it. So we decided to create an opt-in where it was optional. We don't want to add too much friction, but maybe we add a job title and maybe we add social profile, like a handle, like a LinkedIn handle. And that little switch alone helped her identify and find her people much sooner, quicker, so she can start conversations. That's one thing. Another little tweak is, if you know that having conversation with people and being able to qualify them or connect them even before you start your launch is really helping you move the needle, you give them a thank you page. Why not right away keep something very simple, but say, hey, why don't we book a call? So you have a thank you page. Thank you for joining. You're confirmed. I would love to give you an opportunity to spend some 10 minutes with me, 15 minutes with me for a free discovery call or for a free business growth audit or for free, whatever, you do, but like get into this conversation. And that's just an example that worked really well for that person in particular. But there are many different ways of doing that. I can give you another great example along those lines.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
On your thank you page after launch, you can have, here are the next steps. Make sure you write, make sure you follow those steps. Step 1, save the dates. Step 2, download your workbook. Step 3, which I think is really smart, get your business bestie to join, or get your bestie to join, whatever it is. And then they click you. That's the key. You have to make it easy. Everybody's very busy, sometimes lazy. So if you can click on the button and then they can choose whether it's Facebook, Instagram, and all they have to do is select Facebook, for example, and it shares on their feed. Like, these are the little things you can do to make a huge, going from something where you barely have any engagement or no conversation going, to all of a sudden growing your audience, growing the engagement and the conversations. And like, literally, it's so easy to implement. It's just that maybe you were not really aware of it. So I can go on and on. These are just like little details, but
no, that's amazing. And you're making me think, because obviously, if you want to scale a service-based business, you have to learn to launch, right? And I think that a lot of people have gone through a lot of highs and lows with launch. And obviously, there's been so many changes to the market, in the last couple years, which is why we're always like optimizing and testing and trying new things and recalibrating and then bringing that back to the market. And that's what we do, obviously, in our Scale with Simplicity workshops. But what you're making me think of when you're sharing all of these refinements with people, Krystel, is like, we were on strategic advisory this week and one of the clients was saying like, I've been launching for years. And it was literally not until I did one launch this way that it felt fun. She said it felt easeful. She made more money, right? All those things. And it's like, I think for so many entrepreneurs, you're already doing the heavy lifting. You are already doing the hard work. It's not about going and finding a new strategy. It's what is your 2 millimeters? Like that little change that you just said, Krystel, about how you were getting people, giving the clients the strategy of getting people to book a call. How many entrepreneurs that you talk to, if you said, how many calls a week are you getting with prospects? 0. So that's that one strategy alone that can get all those leads booking calls, doesn't matter whether they buy on the first call. What matters is now you have connection. It's not just a name that's on an email list. Now it's a lead that you can qualify, build a relationship with, and ultimately move through the know, like, and trust process. That is like a complete game changer, right?
It's a complete game changer. And it's something that unless you have like a $500 product, you probably will need at some point a conversation. So you may as well be very intentional about it. And by the way, it can be such a pleasant, it doesn't have to feel salesy, right? You can get into just getting to know someone, understanding what they need, so you can give resources. But as you do that, not only you're providing value, but you're qualifying that person and you're understanding like what they need, so you can position yourself better for a sale. So for those of you that feel like, well, I don't want to be aggressive around my sales, approach, it's not. You're literally helping somebody, bringing them value, and they will see for themselves whether or not you're the right person. but you need a connection first, right?
Well, 100%.
So,
And I mean, I think you also have to realize so I saw about 5 years ago when automation and digitizing things became really popular, a lot of people took that too far and it really destroyed the customer experience and customer results, which is why I feel like we had such wind behind our backs growing the company, because we were providing high touch, hands-on accountability, support, all of those things. And I think what's really interesting, Krystel, to your point, is that there was a really big movement over the last couple of years of you don't have to do sales calls. You don't have to talk to people, all of those things. And it is nice to have some lower ticket products that you can send to a sales page. Absolutely. We have feeder products as well. But what I will say is there is definitely a very strong movement and shift in the market where people don't want to buy from companies anymore where they can't talk to a human. There's a very strong movement and shift happening with that right now. And so it's going to be really easy for the businesses that do provide that human touch as a part of their process, where they're relationship focused, to stand out more and more and more, because there's a shift in mentality now, because people are more discerning, because they're making less purchases, and because they want to be more careful that when they buy a product, they're going to have support in how to use the product, how to apply the product, and how to customize the product to their needs. So I think that your point, Krystel, about your sales call doesn't need to be this aggressive push or pitch or whatever. It's really a consultative sale. And the definition of consultative selling is building rapport and adding value for someone in such a way that they ultimately self-select and raise their hand that they want to buy. So I think that perspective is just so, so important, right?
I mean, I completely agree. I think that, because the market is noisier than ever, people have had a lot of bad experience with non-professionals.
Yes.
There's a trust issue.
Yes.
And so many choices, where do you go? So that human interaction is what makes a difference. And I personally love the hybrid of automation with human interaction. And when you can get to that point, that is fantastic. But it's often the tiny things that make a huge difference. It's not the big thing. It's the tiny things over and over that you improve. And I mean, look, that particular client, that VIP that we did, I mean, you heard the testimonial and everything, but it was her best launch, not just for the year, ever. And this was already a successful person. So there is so much that magic that happens in the 2 millimeters. Always.
Yeah. And I feel like I feel like in business advisory, we spent a year working on the 2 millimeters in every department of the company, right? It's not that we're doing radically different things. It's that we're trying to improve the effectiveness and the efficiency of every single thing that we're doing. And we're really starting to see the byproducts of that coming to fruition now. Now, what I will say is I think it's very exciting what's happening in the market right now. I absolutely think that we've seen an acceleration in buying in the last 90 days for sure, versus where the market was at the beginning of this year. And what's really interesting is it's not just us that's seeing that. I'm seeing that in our clients. I'm absolutely seeing in our clients that a lot of that work that was put in earlier in the year, they're starting to see that now come to fruition. And I'm seeing that in different types of businesses at different levels, in different places. People's launches are starting to balloon back up again. It's really positive. And I know for a lot of people listening, you may be very familiar with launching, and maybe you've done dozens of launches in the past, but maybe you kind of have seen the slowdown in them, over the course of this year or last year. Maybe you've kind of put them aside, or maybe they've gotten a little watered down as the market has shifted. What I will tell you is there's been a lot of changes to launch strategy in the last year. I just spent the past 5 weeks, I think, on strategic advisory, specifically digging in and sharing with our own clients the strategy changes that need to be thought through and applied when you look at launching. So what I want to make sure everyone knows that's listening is we have a workshop coming up on December 4th, Scale with Simplicity. We're going to be really tackling the nuances. And I love what you just said, Krystel, actually, because I think this is what we're beginning to do really, really well. And I'm so excited for 2024 is the marriage between the optimization and the automation and the human touch. And I think those two things are starting to finally come together for us in a way that they never had before, because we have more sophistication. We've spent more time optimizing. We've spent more time studying the data. And we're excited to share with you guys all these little things that are 2 millimeter shifts. They're not about you, going out and hiring a bunch more people. They're not about you spending more money on ads. They're not about you taking massive action on a new strategy, but really just understanding the refinements that you can make, and reminding you of the power of launching and what this can look like. Because I think for a lot of people, you learn to launch and then it gets watered down a lot, and you start missing a lot of things. And for a lot of people, they pulled back from launching because they were struggling a bit. So, Krystel, do you want to share some things with everybody? Oh, so in the show notes below this episode, you can register for the launch December 4th. We're going to be live at 12 o'clock every day. But Krystel, what are some things that you want to share that you think are really important in terms of what they're going to get out of this launch with us?
Yeah, so first of all, I will tell you what you learned, but outside of the details of that, I always encourage people to come to our launch to observe, be an observer also on how we run and manage the launch, because everything that we do is very intentional. What do I mean by that? And I know everybody is at a different level, so I'm not asking to compare like apple to apple, but you'll see that we have some music to warm up the room. We have a survey at the beginning because we want to learn more about our people, our prospects, so we can serve them better. You'll see that we're very intentional in bringing different people from our team, so you can understand like who's in it, the vibe, like the atmosphere, everything about our business, right? Because it's like a dating period in a way, and you can see our interaction. So there's just a lot to learn outside of the content itself.
You're
That
so
is
right.
wonderful. I always say just observe, like just go in there and see what it is to run a launch. But as far as the content, I mean, I think that if I had to simplify what makes a successful launch, but a successful business, first, you need to grow your audience. If nobody knows, hears you, sees you, it's tough, right? So we're going to talk about audience growth, because that's the first step. Once you're seen, you're claiming your space, you've seen, heard. I know you have your formula, Kelly, on that, which you'll share. Then the next step is like, that's great. They've heard, they've seen you. How do you opt them in? How do you grow your email list? Because your email list is a very important asset. And then they're in your ecosystem. You're not just depending on ads. Some of you will never use ads as you're getting started because it's too expensive. So you got to create an asset in which is your email list. So what opt-ins do you use? We're going to talk about not just the growing the audience, but how do you get people into your ecosystem? So we'll talk about that. And then outside of that, like it's also getting them nurtured and engaged, because you can have a big email list, nobody opens and is interested in what you do. So how do you nurture them? And then how do you convert that into a call? So we're going to talk about the conversation, going into a close call and etc. So the launch will discuss how a launch can speed up this entire process, from audience growth to email list to conversation. A launch is simply a converting event that will help you build that trust and fast forward this whole process, so that instead of having like a sales cycle that typically takes 90 days, 6 months, sometimes longer, you can close within 3, 7, 9 days. That is the power of a launch. So we're going to break everything down on that. We're going to talk about mindset, because sales is energy. And, what I see happening all the time is people looking for perfection, and they never start. They never take any action. So we're going to try to really look at your own self-belief and limitation and how we can help you take action. We're going to talk about some other details around staffing your launch. We're going to have some Q&A to answer, direct business questions. So, some of you may have already participated to one of our workshops before, but every time it's the 2 millimeters, something you heard last time that you missed last time that you'll hear this time, and the improvement that we keep bringing to the table. So we're going to have our launch on December 4th. This is a great way to get prepared so that you can start 2024 very strong.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, you guys know, you guys that have attended stuff from us before, like there's no fluff. There's no BS. Like, we're giving it to you straight. And what's really cool is that, you know, you're getting real time from us. Like, we're launching something all the time for one of the different companies. And when we're coming to the Scale with Simplicity workshop, that is our touchstone. That is where we're coming back and we're saying, we just wrapped up this launch and we just wrapped up this launch. And this is what we learned. And this is what we're trying different. And this is what you're seeing us do different this time. So things are very different than they were a couple of years ago, where it was kind of like set it and forget it. You just rinse and repeat over and over again. Things are shifting. Things are changing very quickly. You do have to do a lot more optimization and kind of be thoughtful about that. But the really good news is, like, you don't need to go figure all that out on your own. You can come hang out with us in the workshop and we'll break it all down for you. So I'm going to pause for 1 second because I know you guys are on your phones. Scroll down, take a moment, click the link, get yourself registered. You will not regret it. I promise you, you will get so much value. I don't care if you're running a $10 million company or you're running a $2 million company, or maybe you're still trying to hit $1 million for the first time. There's something for everyone. And we're launching high ticket, we're launching mid ticket, we're launching low ticket. We can talk through the context of all of those things, but it's an investment in yourself. And to Krystel's point earlier, even if you don't even want to come work on your launch, but you just want to observe how a championship team is operating. Observe how a company of our size, of our caliber, is facilitating this and the different roles that different people are playing. Come to get inspired about what your team can look like a year from now. You're going to get to meet a bunch of our executives. You're going to get to meet vice presidents and salespeople and business leaders and our content creator. You're going to get to meet all these different people, and it's going to inspire you and get you in the right mindset for 2024. And I think the final thing, and then I'll turn it back to you, Krystel, that I just want to add is, like, you know, I love the start of a new year, which the new year does not start on January 1st. The new year has started now. You know, December is the new year because our results from January are from, you know, a couple months early. But what I will say is, now is the moment. If you have any built up junk in your head or in your heart about what happened this year, now is the time to let it go. Let it go. Because the moment that you start a new year and you're carrying junk from the last year into it, you're putting your past in your future, and you are the only person that is sabotaging your success. So if nothing else, come on December 4th, come spend this week with us, get your head right, get your mind right, get your heart right, update your strategy, put the pieces together, get fired up, and use this as a catalyst for whether you're doing a launch later in December or whether you're going to do it right at the beginning of January. This should kind of be like a springboard for you going into the new year. Krystel, what would you add to that?
No, I think it's exactly that. You need that momentum. Even if you think like, oh, I've heard this before, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't matter. You just need to be in that right mindset and start right away. And I mean, it's we make it sound complicated, but everything is so simple. Business is not meant to be hard.
For sure.
It's how we make it, right? And it starts with our mind.
Yeah.
Having the right mindset.
100%. So I hope we'll see all of you there. I just want to remind you again, you're 2 millimeters away, right? A couple little refinements could take your launch from bust to booming. And that is the goal. So I hope to see you all on December 4th, 12 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you use the link below this to register. We can't wait to see you there. Me and Krystel are bringing the fire, and you're going to get to meet lots of other members of Team Unstoppable too. But you're 2 millimeters away. Don't give up. Get your head and your heart in the right place, and know that whatever your dream is for 2024, you can make it happen, but you got to get yourself in the space. You got to optimize and find that 2 millimeter jump. All right. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for hanging out. Bye.
Bye.